Hey everyone, and welcome back to the third episode now of the GamesPerSecond podcast. I, once again, am still Geo, and with me is still...
Winston. Hello again.
Hey. Hello. Yes.
Hello.
Lots of topics on today's podcast. Lots of stuff to talk about, because more than I expected happened this week.
Yeah,
with
same. It was a...
updates, specifically updates.
Yeah. Busy.
Which,
busy week.
yeah. Which, getting into some of those updates, let's just hop right into the first one that I have been abusing, the Monster Hunter update.
Mm-hmm.
Monster Hunter Rise 2.0, Hunter rank unlock, Chameleos got added, Cachella d'Ora got added, Teostro got added, Basil Goose, a guy from World they didn't really talk about, but he got added. He's not as important as the other three, but he got added. And new weapon upgrades, new armor upgrades, lots of stuff. New armor for each of those monsters I mentioned, and new weapons for each of those monsters. Just a lot of stuff. Tons of stuff. I've been loving it personally. Have you gotten into it much?
I haven't touched my Switch in the past little bit. I've been programming, so I haven't had any time to game. But I have finished up. I will probably try to get into it today.
Unacceptable. Unacceptable. No. Yeah, I've been procrastinating on things that I should have been doing, like you, but I've been playing Monster Hunter instead, unfortunately. Or fortunately, depending on how you look at it. Personally, like, the game was, like, awesome beforehand. But this is what Monster Hunter does. They keep adding content, which is awesome. It's been a great fun running parties with a couple friends I have, and just abusing some of these monsters, because we are too good at this game, and it cannot hold us back. It will not hold us back.
Okay, so let me ask you a question.
Please.
They've added extra content beyond the star levels that were already available in the beginning?
It's in the same star level. It's still 7-star.
Oh, okay.
But it's certainly harder. And they'd add, like I said, the 3 elders and Basil Goose.
Okay.
But those are, and a few new Apex monsters as well. A few new. Apex Diablos, Apex Rathalos, but yeah, they're all in 7-star. Okay,
good to know.
And you can now hunt Apex monsters as well, so it's not just in Rampages anymore, which is really, really great if you need something specific.
Yeah. I figured that as well. I just wasn't sure about if they were extending the star ranking or not yet.
No, because I think they're kind of saving some of that stuff for Hunter rank for Master ranks.
Yeah.
Probably next year. Whereas they're still adding content that's, in my opinion, harder than what 7-star was. It's just being tacked on to 7-star.
Well, there's the next updates coming out in May, right?
Correct. That's also going to extend the story more.
Perfect. I'm excited. I'm excited to try it out, and I'm excited to try out the next one.
I'm down to play with you. It's really, really good.
Maybe after the podcast, a little bit of Monster Hunter Rise, just saying.
Maybe.
Not immediately, but
Immediately. No. I heard you. You said what you said.
Yeah, let's just drop what we're doing now. Let's just play.
Who needs a podcast? It's the other game that got updated is something you could talk to more than I can.
Oh yeah.
Just Mario Party for some reason.
So
kind of random. Not complaining though.
Oh, I'm not complaining either, but when was Mario Party released? It had to be years ago now.
Yeah. I'm gonna quickly look it up, but
I'll keep on talking while you find the facts there. But yeah, so they released an update that essentially made the Mario Party Online experience what it should have been from the very beginning.
Yes, 100%.
The whole thing before, so Mario Party Online before was here you can play like 12 mini games in a set of 4 against buddies.
So weird.
And that's all you could do. That's literally all you can do. It had nothing to do with like how you usually play Mario Party. It was the worst online functionality I've seen in a Nintendo
You couldn't play
game.
boards.
No.
Right? You couldn't even play boards.
No boards.
Online with friends.
Literally just mini games, and it was only like a set of 12 or 15 mini games that you could play.
October 5th, 2018, by the way. So about 2.5 years ago.
It's
and it
crazy.
just updated to now, 2.5 years after launch, you can finally play boards online with friends.
Yeah.
That is so strange.
I've heard...
Again, it's a good update. Odd timing, though.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of how do I say it? Like opinions on like why they've done this and why now.
I would like to hear some of those if you have them top of head.
I have them bottom of head, but I can dig them up. No worries. One of the opinions is that they very recently changed the network for Nintendo, like the online network system.
Oh, yeah. They talked about that when the Monster Hunter Rise demo dropped, right?
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yes. I know what you're talking about.
So before it was very limited apparently, and it had a hard time running any kind of more advanced online functions. So with this update, maybe they decided, okay, with it, we can now actually implement boards and stuff into Party. So that opinion is that, okay, they wanted to do this from the beginning, they just couldn't, and they put it out when they could.
Yeah, so it's more of a back end thing, more than like a Nintendo didn't want to update their game. It's just more of a server issue that's been vastly improved, which now makes this even possible in the first place.
Yeah, and now there's
That
the
makes
other
sense.
opinion where they decided to put this out, Mario Party out when it did come out, which was 3 years ago, pretty much. And they had no intention of adding online functionality, but then it sold incredibly well.
Yeah.
It's still like, I think like the 7th or 8th most selling game on the Switch.
Let's go find out.
And then they're like, okay, we should really, update this because it seems to still be selling. Kind of like Mario Kart, not as like impressively as Mario Kart, but
Yeah. 7th best selling first party game and probably game overall, 13.82 million as of December 31st, 2020.
Yeah, so I can see both of those opinions being correct in various ways. I would love to think that they wanted to add it in and they just couldn't, because I want to hold Nintendo on a pedestal and be like, yes, like they have values, they wanted to put this in or whatever. But it wouldn't surprise me if it was very much a marketing thing.
Well, I think a lot of that with certain games specifically, maybe not like the big series, but like some of those, like the Mario Party series, maybe like I can only think back to the Wii U days, where not only did the Wii U sell poorly, but the Mario Party game on Wii U was really strange.
Yeah.
And I don't think it sold very well, even for a Wii U game. So they probably put this out, being like, whatever. And it just exceeded expectations, as most numbers with the Switch have.
I mean, that's fair. That's a good opinion to have as well. I agree. Like, they probably were thinking that. I forget. I try to like block out that part of my mind that has to like remember Mario Party, like the past 4 or 5 versions or whatever.
Oh my God. GameCube ones are the best ones, I'm just saying.
They're really good. I mean, we've never played the Nintendo 64 ones. Apparently, they're amazing.
Yeah, but so are the GameCube ones, though.
Yeah, but we gotta try the originals, man.
We should.
They're just incredibly expensive to buy.
If only we could go outside of our houses right now, I totally would play with you.
For what reason can we not go outside? I don't understand. No. But yeah, I agree that I think that they should have probably thought it through a little bit better. They did kind of return to form, and that's what everyone was asking for.
Yeah.
So the sales were great. I remember seeing it, and I was like, oh my goodness, I can't wait to finally be able to play Mario Party with my buddies and not have to be in like a giant car or something with like it was super
but the
weird.
Wii U one was so weird. Oh, the Wii U one. Why Wii U?
But then the online functionality wasn't really working, and as we got older, it was harder to gather together and play on a couch. So
yes.
I specifically
Which now,
yeah.
if like I were to get Super Mario Party, now we can actually play a board properly without having to be in the same house. So
I don't know. I felt a little bit jaded in the beginning because I got the Mario Party Switch bundle.
I was going to bring this up, yes.
And I waited for it because the the Mario Kart bundle for the Switch had like come out just recently, and I was like, I have Mario Kart, but on the Wii U. So I don't really want to buy it again. I also bought the DLC on the Wii U, so I essentially had, at the time, what they were putting out.
Yeah.
And then Mario Party came out, and I'm like, oh, that's great. Let me play online. I tried to play online with my girlfriend not too long after, and it was like the worst online experience I've had with a AAA game. Maybe a game in general.
But now,
2.5 years later, maybe jump in, you know?
Yeah.
Also,
why not?
because of what's going on and like it's hard to leave the house and everything, it might actually benefit the game like quite a bit.
I mean, most games have benefited from this. But
but a party game like this is like, you know, you need the people, right?
Yeah. Which actually, going back to the first game, I think is why Monster Hunter Rise, or part of why Monster Hunter Rise has been doing so well. It's the perfect storm. It's a fantastic game on a super well-selling system. It's being supported and updated well, and it's just generally a pretty perfect storm for that, I think, as well. And people at home playing it. The Monster Hunter, I know Monster Hunter you can play solo, and a lot of people do prefer it that way, and it's cool. But like playing in a party is a lot of fun.
It's a different experience for sure.
It's a lot of fun. And it's been fun for me playing with friends that game as well.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the Switch games, like even the ones that weren't super big sellers before, the Switch kind of like pushes games very well.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh, for sure.
It showcases games incredibly well, and it makes them sell like way more than they used to.
Mario. Okay, hold on. I'm looking at numbers here. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has sold approaching 3 times as many units as Wii U consoles.
Yeah,
I mean that is nuts.
It don't wait 3 times as many as Wii U consoles, so it only sold what, like 24 versions.
Oh my god! Because the Wii U consoles, there's 13.56 million out there, and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe 33.4. With numbers will be updated within the next few days, and let's say 13.5 million Wii U's, 33.4 million Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for Switch specifically. That's crazy.
That's our mandatory bag on the Wii U segment of the podcast.
The Wii U. It had some fantastic games, though. It really did. Mario Kart 8, Super Mario 3D World, Splatoon was a brand new franchise. Bayonetta 2 was a brand new exclusive because the first one was cross-plat. Super Mario Maker was a new thing. The Zelda remasters, like, had some great stuff on there.
Yeah, and that's why they're all in the Switch
But the console sucked. Yeah, exactly. That's why they're on Switch. The console and the marketing were just Anyway, I'm
We
gonna
could
beat a dead horse.
that could be another podcast discussion.
It's a whole other podcast.
I feel like that's
an entire podcast.
an actual podcast length of discussion there.
Yeah, agree. But without taking up too much time on that, both of those games and their updates that we were talking about, Monster Hunter Rise and Super Mario Party, bring up another question. What is your opinion on continued support of a game? What's your opinion?
Generally I like it. I like that to see a publisher or a game dev or whoever's putting it out support something for a lot longer than just its initial release. It's nice to see that they believe in the game and they're going to put effort into it. But I feel like there's a distinction there. Continued support is not the same as paid DLC.
Agree.
Yeah. So if you're continually supporting a game and you're putting out free DLC or just continuous updates and everything, I feel like it's great and it's almost always a benefit. But if you're just putting out DLC to complete what is an unfinished game, that's not. Yeah.
No, that's dumb.
That's
dumb.
Exactly.
That's pretty dumb. I was gonna say, because like with Monster Hunter, there's been and will continue to be free content updates, and at some point it may be getting like the Iceborne treatment, which is basically Iceborne was just Worlds like Ultimate, right? Like instead of reselling the game as 4 Ultimate or World Ultimate or Generations Ultimate, they just released a separate DLC. I can see Rise getting the same thing, but again, that's not, like you mentioned, that's not selling you like a portion that finishes the game. Like the game's done. The game is amazing. There's tons of content. That's just extra afterwards. That's
exactly.
Just post-game stuff. So yeah, I'm glad that you made that distinction as well. But yeah, continued support. I think it depends on the game. Obviously, like some games are just a tailored campaign experience, whereas other games like the Mario Parties and Monster Hunters and GTA 5 Onlines and other games of that sort kind of lend themselves more to that continued support kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Whereas like, I don't know, certain games it's just hard to do that because it's just a set story. I mean, you experience the story, collect everything or whatever it is, and then it's done. And that's okay too. We're like Astral Chain, for example. Didn't get much post-launch stuff, but that's because like it just is what it is, and that's okay too, right? Like there's no online really.
Yep.
So it's just a different thing. So yeah, I think certain games that can have a continued support and or lend themselves to getting continued support, it is always amazing to see that, but not every game needs it, I guess would be my asterisk to that.
Yeah, I agree. And going back to like what you were saying, I feel like that's why the Breath of the Wild had such a huge fallback in the DLC. Like, yes. People didn't like the fact that they were putting out DLC that they were saying completed the game. I was not in that camp. I kind of didn't mind that they were doing it. Because I thought Breath of the Wild as itself, like, it was done. If they never came out with the DLC, no one would have been upset.
100%.
And then they came out with the DLC and everyone was upset. Or, like, a lot of people were upset.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a very big distinction to be made. There's a big difference between an unfinished game that needs DLC to continue to play and a game where like a DLC addition will help benefit the game, right?
100%. An example of the former that you just mentioned, would you argue Pokemon Sword and Shield were in that box?
Oh god, that's like another.
Just saying.
another Wii U-esque situation where I feel like I can talk about that game forever. Okay. Yes,
It's Cole's Notes version, maybe.
I do believe that they released a game that you could view as finished, but really was probably the most simplistic Pokemon game since the initial release of Pokemon. Not including the wild area, which I think was a great addition.
The whole thing should have been that kind of camera angle. I don't know. It felt like a 3DS game on Switch.
Yeah, it felt like not a great game. So I went through waves with that game, right? And initially I was like, okay, if you go in just expecting a Pokemon game, you can probably get enjoyment out of it. And I still do kind of believe that.
That's fair.
But like after going through like 3/4 of the game, you kind of like feel jaded. You're like, this is not exactly what I'm expecting from a AAA title on a home console. There's so little that there's no like variation at all. You follow a very set path. There's not much else to see or do other than what is like put in front of you. It's pretty rough. And then, like you were saying, it's hard to go from the wild area where you have free cam and you're roaming around and whatever, back into these areas where they don't even give you free cam. You're stuck in your own, the one camera angle that they have for you. And they're actually incredibly small. Like, these towns and cities and whatever, they do a really bad job at showcasing scale because there's only like one way to go, really. So it doesn't matter how big a city is around you if you only have one alleyway to walk through.
100%. It's a false sense of scale. It's like, oh well, look at all this stuff. Go through this one tunnel. It's like, well, hold on, like,
yeah.
Which is why I'm actually very excited for that Pokemon Legends Arceus game. But I'm not gonna get my hopes up too high just yet. I've been let down before. I'm gonna wait until I see more. But conceptually, it's very promising. But I don't trust anyone anymore.
That's another thing that we can talk about for a long time. But to give like a little summary of what I think it's very smart of them to give another studio the reins for whatever Pokemon game they're putting out now, which is Shining Pearl or Shining Diamond and something Pearl, whatever the Pearl Brilliant and Diamond remakes are.
It's Brilliant and Shining. I don't remember which one's which though.
So it gives the Pokemon studio, or like Game Freak, the main studio that works on these games, more time to actually put out a more AAA version of Pokemon.
Yeah, because do you think the Let's Go thing kind of chewed into their time a bit too much from and potentially took away from development time from Sword and Shield?
I feel like they're not just the Let's Go thing. I feel like their entire development philosophy got in the way of Sword and Shield, because
interesting.
There has never been a year where a Pokemon game has not come out, like a mainline Pokemon game. Or at least that's what they were aiming for, right?
Yes, yeah. Which is a mess. I don't know.
And that includes like, okay, they put out Diamond and Pearl, and the next year was Platinum, right? So they're not like really remaking a game; they're just sort of adding to it. But I'm counting that as like there's a release every year kind of thing.
Yeah, that someone does have to work on.
Yeah, so that philosophy I think really messed with them for Sword and Shield. It was hard to make the transition from handheld to Switch, I'm sure, like guaranteed.
Yep.
And there was a lot of limitations, and I feel like they put a lot of effort into things that maybe they could have not put as much effort into. Like, the fact that there's like 1,000 curry flavors or whatever in the game, like maybe not as important.
Yeah.
But Yeah, and there's the whole like Pokemon camp or whatever it was, where your Pokemon run around and kind of interact with each other. Very cool concept, but I'm sure that took a lot of time, and I think they actually stated that it took a lot of time because they had to custom make animations and interactions for every single Pokemon that was in the game at the time. So
yeah,
that is a lot of time, and I understand that, but you're trying to put out a Pokemon game, not like a Nintendogs out there.
Nintendogs, oh my goodness.
So you should put out an actual Pokemon game. I also understand that this is probably a way for them to push these new animations out so that they can have them ready for an oncoming Pokemon game.
Interesting.
Like Arceus or Arceus, I can't remember how it's supposed to be said.
I think it's Arceus, I could be wrong.
I think it is Arceus, because I say Arceus and I know I'm wrong. So
yeah, I don't know. It feels like their goal was quantity over quality, was just, like you said, pushing out something every year. It's like, you mean, like, and then you look at the other major Nintendo franchises, like the 3D Marios and the Zeldas, and there's like 2 or 3 a decade, but they're amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
They're all so good. Then, you know what I mean? There's not one dud, except for Skyward Sword, but
no,
that's one man's opinion.
Skyward Sword is fine. It's kind of messy, but it's fine.
I will say, I do think that the Switch remaster that's coming out soon, very soon, between the push to, I believe the trailers have all been 60 FPS. Mm-hmm. The original, I don't believe, was 60 FPS.
I don't think so.
So if that jump in frame rate is true, and mix that with the non-Wiimote controls, just anything not using the Wiimote, it could kind of obviously, like, there are some other glaring issues, like that blue girl who just will knock it out of your face.
She's not that bad.
And way too hand-holdy. But I do think that those quality of life things in the frame rate and controls will help bridge that gap a bit more for some people to experience that game in a bit of a better light. Mm-hmm. I hope there's a way to stop that blue girl from stopping your progress every 2 seconds, though.
I feel, okay, it's not the blue girl's fault. I think her name's Fi, something like that.
Fi Fi Fo Fum? Yeah, something like that.
I have my own opinions. We've gone on like 3 different tangents that I know it could be like a part of a totally different podcast. No, it's not.
It's my
nothing
fault.
to be sorry about. But I really do think that Skyward Sword holds its own. And if we didn't get Skyward Sword, there is very little likelihood that we would have Breath of the Wild as it is.
The sacrificial lamb?
It was kind of a sacrificial lamb. And I'm hoping, bringing it back to the Pokemon thing, that Sword and Shield is also that sacrificial lamb, where they were just getting things like sorted so that they can put out a better game.
Big if true.
Yeah. But I think Skyward Sword is better than Sword and Shield. I'll put that out there.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Cat delivery man. Little Game Grumps for you.
Yeah, we were talking about like continued support before we went off on like 3 or 4 different tangents.
Yeah. That's an interesting topic.
No, I agree. I just want to go back to it for a second because I do have something to say about
please.
The continued support and like unfinished games and like how they go together. And I might get a little bit of flack for this. So I love Animal Crossing. It's one of the top franchises in my mind. Never used to sell as well as it did this time, and I feel like, as Gio here would probably agree with, the pandemic and stuff had a lot to do with helping the sales of Animal Crossing.
Perfect storm.
But they did release what I would consider an unfinished game.
Interesting. Why is that? What's missing from it that's like, that you're like, this is really holding it back from being what it needs to be?
Well, so here's where it gets very hard to like describe, because they released a full game, but it didn't feel like Animal Crossing once you got to the end game. And I'm talking like the initial
end
release.
Game. Interesting.
They slowly added like things as it moved on. But like the whole thing about Animal Crossing is that it's like a progressive, or not a progressive thing, but it's like you go in and there's events that happen throughout the year. It's a real-time game. You have people you interact with and whatever. And initially, when you got to the end game of Animal Crossing, which I won't spoil, but I don't feel like it's a huge spoiler anyways, there was really not much else to do. And as someone who streamlines Animal Crossing, because I loved that game and I wanted to play as much of it as I could in the beginning, I got to the end game incredibly fast, and then there was very little to do, and I still kept playing it for hours and hours every day. Still probably one of the most hours I put into the game on the Switch. And yeah, there was very little to do once you collect everything and all this other stuff. And then they started adding things in afterwards, like the update with Red and putting like the paintings up into the museum, which has always been a part of Animal Crossing, which is why it was weird that it was gone.
Interesting, yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to get at, is that there were things that have been staples in Animal Crossing from the very beginning that are missing in this game. So even though you can go into the game and be like, this is a complete experience, as a video game, it's not entirely a complete experience as an Animal Crossing game.
Interesting. I was gonna say, because like I've heard, like whenever I ask certain people of how, like you said, specifically dedicated Animal Crossing fans, what they think of this a game for Switch, most of them tell me that they preferred New Leaf on 3DS better.
Yes. Because that was
Would you agree
more
with that?
a traditional Animal Crossing game from the beginning.
Fair. Would you say this one was maybe easier for a more casual gamer to get into, though?
No, because I don't think there were any limitations or anything pushing people back from playing any Animal Crossing game. Like, it's not a game that really requires much skill. Or
No, but just like the sheer amount of time it takes for certain things to happen. I think you'd be like I don't want to dedicate that much time.
No, but again, it's like the same-ish thing now, right? Where like in this game, you still have to wait for things. In fact, with how they made things easier to decorate and customize, there's even more waiting to be done. Because you have to wait a day to like move a house, or wait a day to build a bridge, or wait a day to do whatever. And if you have a full village, which I do, there's like 8 to 10 people, I think, on the island. That's like over a week and a half just to move all the houses where you want them. So it's not any better in that sense. I think there are a lot of things that they did do better. Like there's the crafting system, so it adds more to do. There's the whole like being able to mess around with your island and like the hills and everything. Like you actually terraform.
I was gonna say terraform, yeah.
So there is a lot more customization in your island that you can do, and it's amazing what some people have done with it. But that doesn't mean that they released a finished Animal Crossing game. They very much released an unfinished Animal Crossing game and then started to update and get to where they are now, which I think is closer to a finished Animal Crossing game, but still not there.
Interesting. With those things taking time though, like moving certain things and I've been waiting for certain things in game to happen. That's why I played the GameCube version, in which you just mess with the date. Just restart, talk to the person, just mess with the date, and just keep playing. But I can see how that might not be a thing on Switch, though.
You can still do it on the Switch, but it's
not as easy, though.
It's not as easy as just like turning it off and on and changing. It's a little bit more complicated, I guess. And because again, going back to them releasing an unfinished game, if you bought the Animal Crossing on the GameCube and you wanted to get to a certain event, you could, right? You could time skip all the way to that event or whatever. But because initially, when the game was released, they didn't have these events pre-scheduled into the game. Like they're pushing them out as updates, right? So it's not like you can just go to Christmas and have that Christmas event whenever you wanted. Like you had to wait until Christmas came around.
That's true.
So time skipping was less beneficial this time around if you're that kind of gamer, which, like, I don't play Animal Crossing that way, but I do see how that could be an issue for people.
That's fair. Yeah, that's true. Because before, it had to be hard-coded into the game and then shipped, whereas now they can just push the update via the eShop. So
yeah,
that definitely changes that. That's true.
Yeah, that's just me talking badly about one of my favorite games out there.
Yeah. Speaking of support, though, I'm speaking of Animal Crossing potentially getting support and or not support, and or Super Mario Party getting support 2.5 years later. When is support too late? This is Super Mario Party. I thought it would be too late, but it's all I've been hearing people talk about online. So, I mean, there's still dedicated audiences for certain PSP games and certain retro games all over the place. So, like, it's hard to say. I don't think there's a time span that's like, okay, once it's 3 years old and it's too late. I think it's just you just kind of have to read the room and see what players want, what players are playing, what players aren't playing, what they're asking for, etc., etc. So, yeah. I don't think there's a set expiration date. I just think companies have to read the room.
I agree. Support is never too late as long as... Okay, so I should word this very carefully. Support is never too late. Ever. Because you'll always please whatever fan base you have at the time.
Yeah.
So if you want to support something 5 years later, as a developer or whatever, go for it. It's great. But support marketing-wise and, like, money-making-wise, yeah, there is a time frame. Not a set time frame, but, like, if your game is no longer relevant, your support, it might be too late.
Yeah. But again, I mean, let's say piggybacking off of that point, in principle, it's never too late. It's just it's just whether or not they'll get a return on their investment.
Exactly.
Which, yeah, it just depends on how active that fan base is.
Yeah. And it depends on the game that you put out and, like, what it was before. I would say that the Super Mario Party, like, bandwagon has long left the building, and there's still the people that go and play it, like, for couch co-op and whatever. But because of the support that it was given, the fact that it was such a huge update that allows you to play with other people, like, online, I don't think that would have ever come at a late time. Because it almost changes the game entirely, right?
I was going to say, because, like, this kind of update, being that it's on a currently supported system, obviously, even if, like, it's not even necessarily about, like certain people that bought the game before and that were eagerly awaiting this update, but, like, it probably will drive up sales for people who haven't even bought the game yet, like myself.
100%.
I don't have it. I've thought about getting it now that the online's better, because, like, I can play with you and other friends, right? So I think in that sense, since it's the Switch and the Switch is still extremely popular, like, you're going to get people that don't have that game looking at this, reading about the update, and possibly going out to buy this game on the eShop now.
I completely agree. It's very different. It'll definitely boost sales. I wouldn't be surprised if it pushes itself higher up on the list of where it is for first-party Nintendo games.
Yeah,
just 100%. For this update.
100%.
Do you think this would work on a smaller game though?
Ooh, name an example. What do you mean? Define smaller.
Like an indie game, I guess. Like your average indie game, not like a cult classic or something that's
like a Hades
power. Yeah, I guess Hades.
Like Hades, maybe. If there were, because like right now there's no online. Like if Hades added an online co-op mode,
Sure.
for example, I think so. I really think so. Or like again, because that game was up for Game of the Year, so maybe that's a bit too big of an indie game. But like even Dead Cells or Slay the Spire, for example. I don't know. I'm just tossing names out there. I think it would, obviously to a lesser extent, but do I think it would have a positive impact? Again, assuming it's on Switch and or a currently supported console, something where a player base is active, yeah, why not? I think if there's some sort of audience there, you're going to, any major update will be talked about by certain YouTube channels and will slowly garner interest and push up sales. So I don't see why not.
Okay, that's a good point actually. I was more on the other side of there probably is like a very set time limit for smaller indie games. But you made a convincing argument there. I didn't think about the fact that just because it wouldn't be an immediate boon on their end doesn't mean that it won't slowly shuffle out like some sort of marketing campaign. My input was that maybe because they wouldn't have like, oh, Nintendo Direct, Ib and Ob got an update like 5 years after, right? There wouldn't be that like big kind of advertisement, I guess, for it.
Oh no, for sure.
But no, you're right.
It doesn't need it though.
It would, whoever is still playing the game, whoever is still following that kind of gaming news, it would definitely get out there somehow. You're right.
Yeah. Like I know plenty of YouTube channels that will revisit games that got updated, either for performance reasons, see if it's all patched up, see if you know what I mean. Like say for example, Crisis Remastered, just throwing it out there. When it launched on Switch, PC, and PlayStation, Xbox, it launched without the Ascension level. Now, past few months, the PC, Xbox, the PlayStation versions added the level back.
Yeah.
Why? Because why not? Which, for the record, it better come back to Switch as well. well, not back to Switch. It was never included on Switch, but I would like the Switch to be content complete along with the other versions. Besides the point. Point being that it got a patch afterwards, and like immediately the moment that level that was cut came back, no one talked about it in like a Sony state of play, but people started talking about it online. I mean, Digital Foundry started talking about how it was ported over. The other channels were comparing it to the original PC version, which was formerly the only way to play that level, and just it garners interest to various degrees.
Yeah,
but it still garners interest. So there's going to be some audience, and they're going to talk about it, and then even people who haven't heard of it or don't really care are going to hear about it via those channels and via other things like Twitter and stuff like that. So yeah, there's always an avenue for things to get out. Word of mouth is more powerful than you think.
Yeah, no, you make a very good point. It's less of a bang and more of a slow fizzle, but it's still like
yes,
is a benefit regardless.
Yeah, exactly. Again, this is my opinion, though. That's just the way I guess I consume media, maybe. So that's just me. Maybe people don't see that as much because they don't watch certain channels. But yeah, I don't know. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I'm sure that like the bang, like a big Nintendo announcement or a big like Sony announcement or whatever, will definitely get you better results.
I mean, but for sure,
that doesn't mean that a slow fizzle isn't viable.
Exactly. like I don't know, because like I play certain games like the New Blood interactive games, which are it's an indie publisher. They've done games like Dusk, Medieval, Ultra Kill, which is in early access. Never been in any major presentation, but they slowly keep one-upping themselves and slowly keep growing. And now Ultra Kill in early access did better in sales than Dusk in early access, and it's like it's just slowly growing via word of mouth and slowly garnering a dedicated fan base. That, you know what I mean? Like that means something. That's again, it's way slower.
Yeah.
It's a way more tedious way of doing things. But when you don't have the benefit of a Nintendo Direct, it doesn't mean it's impossible. If there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely agree.
Yeah. Sort of switching gears though, because I think we've talked about that for some time. Unless you've got something to add to it.
No, I mean I already took the time to bash my favorite game, so I'm good.
What consoles did you have as a kid?
As a kid, okay. Let's see. So really, my first console was the GameCube, but that isn't to say that I didn't have other consoles in the house. My grandmother had a Super Nintendo at her place, and my father got a gift from my uncle of the Nintendo 64, which for a very long time I thought was mine. And I played it I played it a lot more than he did, but still, it was not mine. I would say that my first console...
It was yours.
I would say my first experience with console gaming was actually Nintendo 64. Because I played it before I played any other console.
How about handhelds?
Handhelds?
And where do those fit into that timeline?
I think my handhelds came very quickly after the 64. Like, I can't remember which... When was the Game Boy Advance announced? Was that after or before the GameCube?
The regular one or the SP?
The regular one. The one that looked like a potato.
I'm not sure, actually. I'm about to look it up. I
have a feeling it was announced before, but I'm not confident in it. Either way, the Game Boy Advance was my first handheld system.
Okay, so if we're talking about North America, which is where we are, Game Boy Advance, North America, June 11th, 2001. GameCube, North America, November 18th, 2001.
Oh, so it was before, just slightly.
Ever so slightly.
Well, I'm right. I should be more confident in my answers. Yeah, so that was my first handheld, and I'm a hardcore Nintendo fanboy. So I have no other consoles, but I have every Nintendo console, home console, from then onwards. Handheld-wise, I got the SP, and then I got the original DS, and that's kind of where I stopped, handheld-wise.
Well, I mean, technically, is only one generation behind. It's just 3DS.
Yeah, but then there's the new 3DS, you know?
Okay, let's get a new 3DS then, so you can play 3DS games.
And then there was the 2D 3DS, or the 2DS, or
yeah, but it doesn't play
was.
anything. I'm talking about generation.
I know.
2DS doesn't play anything different. The new 3DS does, I think. But it's like a handful.
There's a handful of games with the new 3DS.
Which is weird.
It was weird, but I can see, and we've talked about this before, I can see the Switch going a somewhat similar route, which I know you don't like.
I have a Switch. I want to play Switch games. Why is that weird? Why would Nintendo release a game for Switch? Oh no, but 80 million people can't play it. I get that they want to force
sales,
hardware. Yeah. Well, if that's their shtick, I'm not buying another console. I'm getting a PS5 at that point. What's the point?
I mean, that's fair. That's your own opinion.
That's my opinion. That's my opinion. I mean, I own a Switch. If a game comes up for Switch, I expect to play it. If there's some sort of Switch Pro that does 1440p and or bumps up frame rates and or has NVIDIA a DLSS 2.0 in which it upscales better, that I'm all for. I might not buy it, but if someone wants to play Switch games at higher resolutions and higher frame rates, 1000% I will agree with that. But when you start saying that 80 million Switch users can't play a game for Switch, that boggles my mind.
Yeah. I understand. I didn't mean to trigger you. I'm sorry.
So triggered. I'm sorry. Anyway, in terms of my console history, my first ever piece of legitimate gaming hardware was the Game Boy SP, Game Boy Advance SP. A little laptop boy.
That was great.
Yeah, a little gaming laptop, the original gaming laptop. And then I got a GameCube soon after, which oh man, I remember my dad bringing home the GameCube. That was like, oh my god, because you already had one.
Yeah.
You already had one at the time.
Yep.
And oh my goodness, started borrowing games and like Sunshine and Kirby Air Ride and whatnot. I borrowed from you.
It's a great system.
I'm sure a couple more. I think Billy Hatcher one time. Billy Hatcher was weird. I don't know why it was fun, but it was.
It's such a good game.
It was a great game. It's such a great game.
It's hard to come by.
I can't put my finger on why it was a great game, but it was.
You're a chicken boy who rolls around eggs. What's not to like?
What's like the single player? I don't remember anything about, but the multiplayer was. Local multiplayer was so much fun. So much fun. But anyway, then got my Xbox 360.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Halo, Gears of War, Halo 3, Gears of War 2, so good. Have aged rather well. Both of those games specifically. I don't know about the franchises.
Yeah.
Halo 5 and Gears 5. Gears of War 5, nothing's wrong with it, but it's just Gears of War 2 with fresh coat of paint. And Halo 5 was... we don't talk about the campaign. We don't talk about the campaign. We don't talk about it. We just don't.
Yeah.
Then I got my Switch. So, the old PS4, and this generation I started some PC gaming as well. So, I've kept up with some of the other console games via my laptop.
Did you not have a Wii?
I did in my house. I didn't play it. I could. My sister played Animal Crossing on it.
Mm-hmm.
City Folk?
Yeah,
right?
Arguably one of the laziest Animal Crossings that they put out, but yes.
Wow.
I loved it while I played it, but like, I'm not afraid to say what I feel.
That's fair. But yeah, I did have a Wii in the house. I didn't play it. I really didn't play it. I don't know why. I just didn't. I know my mom used it for certain things. My sister used it for certain things. When you and some of our other friends were over, someone would bring Brawl sometimes, and we'd play that.
Yeah,
but like besides that, I didn't play it. I don't know, nothing really interested me. Besides Metro Prime 3, which I didn't even play. but that's the only game that I was like really interested in. I don't know why.
So
everything else was just weird.
I'm interested in what made you transition to the Xbox after the GameCube.
I actually wanted a PS3 since our mutual friends also had a PS3, but the Xbox was on sale.
Oh, okay.
That's the story. That's
not exactly what I was expecting.
I wanted a PS3 because our mutual, and you know exactly which mutual friends I'm talking about. They both had a PS3. I wanted a PS3, Xbox was on sale. Ended up with an Xbox. I don't necessarily regret it because like BioShock was well, that was a timed exclusive. Came out Xbox 2007. My version on the box still says only on Xbox or something like that, or like Xbox exclusive. Yeah. But it ended up coming to PS3 a year later. So yeah, BioShock was a timed exclusive. Like I said, Halo 3, Gears of War 2, where like I had great fun with that system. But I wanted a PS3.
And that was...
Because that system also had some great exclusives.
That was not your decision then, I'm assuming. That was like your parents went out and bought you the one that was on sale.
My decision was the PS3.
Okay.
But
good to know.
It is what it is. It is what it is. Again, I don't regret the 360 at all.
No, of course.
But that's what I wanted then. And I mean, being able to play with our mutual friends would have been cool as well. So there's some mild regretty spaghetti being eaten.
Okay.
But yeah, I still enjoyed my 360.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I was always wondering like why you went that route, and I'm sure you've mentioned it before, but yeah, that's that's not at all what I was expecting.
I'm sorry,
I was
Microsoft,
expecting a more a more in-depth answer.
I'm sorry, Bill Gates.
It's alright.
It's not your fault.
He'll survive.
I will say, the 360 was probably, or well, specifically the first half of the 360's life cycle with the games I mentioned, was probably Microsoft at well, the last time Microsoft was at their most competitive.
Yeah, I agree.
Because the second half of the 360's life cycle was when franchises like Uncharted, Last of Us, Metal Gear 4, that's when those... Metal Gear 4 was relatively early. 2008, but yeah, that's when PS3 really started taking off. God of War 3, those, you know what I mean? So that's when it really started taking off, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
It hurts. It hurts. And then Xbox One was Xbox One. It was Xbox One.
Yeah.
It tried its best.
I feel like
it stumbled out of the gate, though.
We have a more skewed view of all of that as well, because we grew up during the console world, the console wars.
Yes.
Whereas now it's just sort of like a console symbiosis, where like they all sort of exist in somewhat harmony, and there's competitiveness there, but it's not as bad as it used to be.
Okay, YouTube comments used to be the worst back in the day. Oh my god. But yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair, because most big titles are cross-plat and or most exclusives. I mean, aside from the Marios and Zeldas of the world, are timed exclusives.
Yeah. Like
Horizon Zero Dawn, Death Stranding. You know what I mean? The Halo MCC ended up coming to PC, which I know it's in the Microsoft family, but trust me, that was a big deal.
Yes, 100%.
So yeah, there is a lot more of that happening. Even Cuphead and Ori 1 and 2 end up coming over to Switch. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that happening.
Yeah, I feel like it's because Xbox kind of lost their footing along the way, and they
stumbled out of the gate with Xbox One, first of all,
and they needed to
really stumble.
They really need to make up for it, and they took their secondary role, like they took a back seat, and they just sort of accepted it after a while and did what they could. If the console wars were still going on, I would say that Sony would like the PS5 would probably take it.
Oh, for sure.
Just the PlayStation in general. Because Xbox couldn't compete, and then Nintendo just sort of pulled out themselves. They're like, hey, you guys do the home console thing. We'll do the hybrid home console thing.
Honestly, it was a brilliant move, though.
I don't disagree. I feel like it was probably the smartest move they made since, like, the Switch. No, not the Switch.
U.
No. No, the flashbacks. Talking the Wii. I think the Wii was also incredibly smart, trying to get to the casual gamer.
A bit more gimmicky, though.
Oh, 100% more gimmicky, but it's because you're trying to get people into gaming, right? And you kind of need a gimmick.
Yeah.
At the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they kind of really messed up with the Wii U to the point where people were like, oh man, I don't know how long Nintendo's going to last. And thank goodness they came out with the Switch and they really put a good thing out there.
I'm telling you, there's one Wii U exclusive I'm still waiting for, and that's Devil's Third. Better be coming. Better be Devil's Third.
I don't think
You've never heard Devil's Third?
No.
You need to watch more Game Grumps, my friend. Come on. They have a whole series on it where it's just horrible Russian accents. It's fantastic.
Add it to the list of all these different things I gotta get doing.
Watching Game Grumps should be high on that list, obviously.
Take that. I'll push it away. Push away my vaccine appointments and all this other stuff. Let's watch Game Grumps instead.
Who needs them? Exactly. I'm glad we're on the same page. But
anyways, I feel like we've gone through quite a bit.
Agree.
Maybe it's time to start winding down the podcast. We'll give you our usual recommendations here and there, and we'll say our goodbyes.
Of course. What are some of your recommendations?
Okay, so I've got
or a recommendation.
I feel like this is going to be a constant on the podcast for everyone listening, where we're trying to give a recommendation for a speedrun. We'll go through the Epic Game Store, what's coming out like for the week, and we'll give like a song recommendation, a video game song specifically, because I feel, and I'm pretty sure my partner Gio here feels, that they don't get as much representation as they should. So the speedrun recommendation I have is a Celeste any percent run.
Ooh.
I will pull up who has the current first place on the leaderboard.
Interesting.
But Celeste is a very impressive game to watch. It's a platformer game, and it's incredible. If you don't want to watch the any percent run, I would recommend going on YouTube and looking up any TAS bot run, which is a TAS. Just kind of, it's like pseudo, I don't know how to explain it.
Tool assisted speedrun, right?
Yeah. So it's still people putting inputs in, but it's like assisted with a whole bunch of different stuff.
Yeah.
And recorded as it happens. You can look more into that afterwards. The TASBot run is super impressive, but in order to really appreciate the TASBot and how much it breaks things, it's beneficial to watch a speed run by a human first, by a single human first. So go out there and find whatever any percent speed run you have for Celeste and give it a watch. It's a great watch, and I will say that the first place for the any percent speedrun specifically for Celeste right now is someone from the United Kingdom who goes by Babai or Babay. It's a 26 minute, 29 seconds and 194 millisecond speedrun.
Wow.
It's very good. I've given it a watch. It's a fun time, but you might want to give it a watch with like some commentary or something, because he doesn't have any commentary. It's a very serious thing for these guys.
I mean, that's fair. There's actually a speedrun I want to recommend. I don't normally recommend speedruns because I don't usually watch them, but with the Monster Hunter Rise update coming out a couple days ago, one of the monsters that was added during that patch was a monster from World or Iceborne. I think it was World, and that's a Basil Goose. And yeah, this is like a part of the newest patch, so it's not one of the 3 Elder Dragons, but he is 7-star. He is a son of a gun, and someone on the Team Darkside YouTube channel beat it with a hunting horn solo. Remember, this is a hub-specific
Yeah.
This is a high rank hub specific monster. Someone soloed him with a hunting horn in 2 minutes and 52 seconds.
Ooh.
Which is bonkers. So, mind you, Team Darkside has like a bunch of those videos.
Yeah,
so definitely check them out. My monster hunting buddies constantly recommend their channel. So 2 minutes 52 seconds Basil Goose hunting horn. Check it out. With recommendations, actually, I quickly want to recommend some music.
Mm-hmm.
Last week, I recommended a Metroid Prime 2 song. Today, since I've been playing more Dusk and Ultra Kill this week. First of all, Dusk, anything, the whole soundtrack is done by Andrew Hulshult, but I think I recommended Andrew Hulshult before, so I'm going to go with a Doom Eternal song, which Andrew Hulshult did the soundtrack for the post-game DLCs, but the base game was done by Mick Gordon, and The Only Thing They Fear Is You is a fantastic song. Oh my goodness. It is just headbanging, fast-paced goodness that is perfect for that kind of game. So, yeah, Mick Gordon, Doom Eternal, the base game, The Only Thing They Fear Is You. Fantastic song.
Perfect. I'll try to give that a listen. I also have a song to recommend.
Please.
It's
Beach Buds.
It's Beach Buds again. Listen to Beach Buds if you haven't.
A short hike, by the way.
So good. Mark Sparling, great. Anyways, the song I have for this week is also by Inside Celeste, the game. It's made by Lana Rain, and I'm recommending Awake. It's a very like pseudo haunting, comforting, slow piano ballad, and it matches the game very well. There's a lot of different kinds of music that goes through the game, but it's a very good song. I definitely recommend it. Definitely not a headbanger like Gio's recommendation, but definitely worth the listen.
Speaking of piano ballads, that actually just reminded me of another song that I adore. I don't want to say the name because it's a final boss of a game, but if you're looking for a piano ballad, if anyone has not played Dark Souls, it's been a decade. Should I just say it? I guess
I think you
the
can
final
say
boss's
it.
name. It's a decade old. If you haven't played Dark Souls, that's your fault. Gwyn, Lord of Cinder. The music for him is it again because it's the final boss of Dark Souls, the final boss. So I was expecting this huge climactic, anthemic, orchestral sound, music, and what I got was this really slow, really soft piano. And it's just and it's this really, really strange juxtaposition between what he's doing and what you're hearing, and it just creates this really, really cool vibe. I think that was not all what I was expecting, and I loved it because of that. So Gwyn, Lord of Cinder, final boss of Dark Souls, his theme, go check it out.
That's awesome. Kind of like the Khezu.
Khezu's theme, best theme in all the Monster Hunter, by the way, ever.
Have you pulled up the Epic Store?
I have.
Okay, good.
Let me quickly go through it.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, last week we mentioned that this week's was going to be Idol Champions of the Forgotten Realms. Yes, that's a thing. That's out now. And next week is going to be Pine. I have heard of Pine for Switch. Apparently the Switch port did not launch in a fantastic state, but it did get patched. To my knowledge, it performs much better now. So I don't want to knock the devs there since they have worked on it. But Pine will be free next week on the Epic Games Store for PC. I don't know a whole lot about it, but it is like an action-adventure, open-world kind of thing. So I've heard if you like certain like slower-paced open-world games, that might be for you. as a fan of Breath of the Wild, it's got a similar kind of cell shading aesthetic. So I definitely am going to check that out next week, because I was debating getting the Switch version now that it's all patched up, specifically now that it's all patched up. And I mean, if I can get this for free, if I really like it and want to support the work they did on the Switch version, I might end up doing that. But we'll see. It's going to be free next week, so I get to try out it with no cost. So, yeah.
Nice. And I'm pretty sure that wraps up what we have for the ending portion of the podcast here.
Indubitably it does. Yeah, what do you think about a continued support in finished games versus just paid DLC for unfinished games? What do you think about anything that we talked about today? Let us know in those comments down below. Ring that notification bell. Smash that like button. Smash it. Oh, Jesus. Man. I hope I didn't peek.
I definitely
peeked. And see you in next week's episode. Bye-bye.
Peace.